Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about ethical and legal considerations of preparing an article for publication. I'm Dr. Emma Hitt-Nichols, and this is my weekly AMA Manual of Style Guide tip that I hope will be useful to medical writers and also to our clients at Nason Medical. Please share with your colleagues if you find this useful. Today I am talking about the ethical and legal considerations of preparing an article for publication. This is well covered by the AMA Manual of Style, and what I'm presenting is definitely a summary, so please do go to the source to find out all the nuances on this topic. I've tried to pull out the topics that would be most important to medical writers in particular. So the first topic is authorship. According to the International Committee of Medical Journal Editors, or ICMJE, all authors should have participated sufficiently in the work to take public responsibility for the content, either all of the work or an important part of it. This includes 1. Conception and design of the work or acquisition, analysis, or interpretation of the data for the work, and 2. Drafting the work or revising it critically for important intellectual content, and 3. Approval of the version to be published. And also in December 2013, the ICMJE revised its recommendations on authorship and added a 4th criterion for authorship, and that is agreement to be accountable for all aspects of the work in ensuring that questions related to accuracy or integrity or any part of the work are appropriately investigated and resolved. The ICMJE notes that the following contributions alone are not sufficient to justify authorship. That is acquisition of funding, general supervision of a research group, or general administrative support and writing assistance and technical editing, language editing, and proofreading, and that would include medical writers and what we do. Traditionally, supervisors and department chairs and mentors have been given a guest or honorary byline even though they've not met all the criteria for authorship. However, this custom is not acceptable because it devalues the meaning of authorship. So if a client wants to put your name on the top of a manuscript along with the scientist, that's not what's done, and you need to tell them that they put your information down in the acknowledgement section of the paper. So then there's the acknowledgement section. If participants in the project do not meet the criteria for authorship but have made substantial contributions to the research, writing, or editing of the manuscript, those persons should be named with their permission in the acknowledgement along with their contributions and institutional affiliations. To give proper credit to medical writers and authors, editors, journal editors should require authors to identify all persons who have participated substantially in the writing or editing of the manuscript. Substantial editing or writing assistance should be disclosed to the editor at the time of manuscript submission and mentioned in the acknowledgement section. The author information and acknowledgement section usually appears at the end of the article before the reference list and may be hyperlinked from the list of authors at the beginning of the article. The order of authorship is important to understand too. The first author has contributed the most to the work, with other authors listed in descending order according to their levels of contribution. Now, some groups of authors choose to list the most senior author last, irrespective of the relative amount of his or her contribution. Decisions about the order should be made as early as possible, so before the manuscript's written, and then reevaluated later as often as needed by consensus. Disagreement about order should be resolved by the authors, not the editor. Authors may provide a publishable footnote explaining the order of authorship if there's a compelling reason to do so. Editors may request documentation of author-specific contributions also. And there's funding and the role of sponsor information about funding, sponsorship, or other financial and material support, and this should also be clearly and completely identified in the acknowledgement section, if not already reported in the methods section. Duplicate publication is the simultaneous or subsequent reporting of essentially the same information, article, or major components of an article 2 or more times in one or more forms of media, either print or electronic format. Duplicate submission or publication is not necessarily unethical, but failure to disclose the existence of duplicate articles or manuscripts or other related material to editors and readers, so covert duplication, is unethical and may represent a violation of copyright law. Now, this is important for writers that cover news. Acceptable duplicate reports include news media reports of authors' findings, abstracts of findings reported in conference proceedings, executive summaries, and a few other formats. Check out subsection 5.3 for all the details on that. And I will say, in my experience, I have had scientists say that I can't write a news story about their findings because that would be a duplicate publication, but that's actually not true. It would not be. So just know that if you are covering a conference. Another form of ethics to discuss is plagiarism. According to the AMA manual, there are 4 common kinds of plagiarism that have been identified. The first is direct plagiarism, so that's verbatim lifting of passages without enclosing the borrowed material in quotation marks and crediting the original author. Then there's mosaic plagiarism, which is borrowing the ideas and opinions from an original source and adding a few verbatim words or phrases without crediting the original author. In this case, the plagiarist intertwines his or her own ideas and opinions with those of the original author, creating kind of a confused, plagiarized mass, quote unquote. Then there's paraphrasing, which is restating phrases or passages providing the same meaning but in a different form without attribution to the original author. And then there's insufficient acknowledgement, noting the original source of only part of what is borrowed and failing to cite the source material in a way that allows the reader to know what's original and what's borrowed. So I guess the take-home message for this is just be really careful if you're using wording, and as medical writers we're often paraphrasing people's ideas and everything, and really everything needs to be referenced, of course. Okay, so several other subsections are included in this section about ethical and legal considerations. These include intellectual property, ownership, access, rights and management, confidentiality, protecting research participants and patients' rights in scientific publication, defamation, libel, and editorial freedom and integrity, and then editorial responsibilities, rules, procedures, and policies, advertisements, advertorials, sponsorships, supplement and reprints and e-prints, and release of information to the public, and journal-author relations with the news media. So a lot to talk about there, definitely a lot to check out on this topic. So please go to the AMA Manual of Style and check that out if anything sounds interesting that you need to know about. Well, that's it for now. If you need medical writing help, please check out our website, nascentmc.com. And if you're interested in getting into medical writing, please visit numeral6weekcourse.com. So 6weekcourse.com, numeral 6.